Well, welcome to Music Appreciation. My name's Keith Schaefer, Professor Schaefer. I'll be hosting you through this semester. Won't bore you with too many details about myself, but I've got a master's degree in music performance on classical guitar. Got another master's degree in music theory and composition. So I've been doing this for a while. Was a house performer at the Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center. They call it the Strass Center now, for a number of years. Open for a lot of the Broadway musicals that came through and did stuff like that. Have played art museums, art galleries, art shows, dinner parties, things like that. So I've been performing for a long time, doing stuff in recital music festivals and things like that. And been here at PHSC for, I think this is finishing up my 6th or 7th year. I've lost track, but I've been doing this for a while. But what I wanted to do was I want to go ahead and let's go. Let me share sound here. And all right, so you should be seeing my homepage. All right, where do we want to go here? All right, so can you see the music appreciation page on Canvas? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. When I'm in this mode, by the way, I do not. Let me see if I can check this. Okay. Let's put this down here. All right. Yeah. Maybe I can see. All right. So anyway, so here's the landing page when you come in, and your stuff here on the side. Now this is going to look a little bit different than yours because I'm in teacher mode, but I want to just kind of walk you through a few things, show you how to navigate the course, and go over some expectations and stuff like that. And the first thing I want to do is let me just go ahead and take you into the modules. When you get up here in course information, it's got a lot of stuff up here. Your intro. If you're really bored and having trouble going to sleep, you can read my bio there. It does give you the instructions for accessing the online textbook and playlist. You'll want to watch that at some point, although I'm going to walk you through some of that tonight. I don't remember who it was. Someone was asking me about textbook, and right
That
now,
was me.
yeah, so there is a book. Now you can pick this up in the bookstore. It's going to be loose leaf, so you'll put it in like a 3-ring binder. Make sure that when you do it, that you don't lose the card, that it's going to have an access code to get the online stuff, because really the online stuff is ultimately much more important. The problem is just to get the online code is only like $10 less than to get the book and the online code. So it really doesn't pay just to do the one. But I'm going to walk you through that a little bit. When you come here, there's a link for your online textbook and a link for your playlist. You'll probably want to make some use out of these as you're working through the course. I've got a link to the syllabus here. And again, I'm going to come back and hit some of these in a second. While I'm thinking about it, I want to take you through this. I want to show you. Well, before we get too deep in here, I do want to tell you, this is an abbreviated course, if you didn't realize that. So we're doing a full semester's worth of work in like a 5-week span. So you're going to, stuff's going to be hitting you pretty hard and heavy. Some people freak out because they say, oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff due. I think I put everything due on Sundays. You don't have to wait till Sunday to do it. I just do it that way to kind of break it up. Do keep in mind, if things go very late, you may end up losing some points for being late. If it's due at 11:59 and you turn it in at 12:01, I'm gonna take those late points off. I mean, I'll be reasonable. If you ever have an issue with anything, please feel free to shoot me a text or a email or whatever, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. If you want to get a hold of me quickly, text me. If you're okay to wait a little bit, you can send me an email. I'll check my emails about once a day. Usually it's in the evening. If you text me during the day, it may be a little bit before I get back to you, because I do teach government and world history at a local high school as well. So, but one thing I want to tell you, I did reduce the writing assignments in this semester. I took about half of them out, but I want to walk through you with through this with you to make sure that everybody knows what I'm looking for, because this is a Gordon Rule class. So even though it's a music appreciation class, it's a humanities class, it is a Gordon Rule class, which means that college level writing is expected. The school does provide help for that if you need it. I can give you help to some degree. I'll definitely, be reading your papers and giving a lot of individual feedback. I'll usually give you a video feedback on your writing assignments. I'll do my comments on a video and kind of walk through and tell you what I like, tell you what I don't like. That's my chance to really teach you in this class, because most everything is set up through, the book and the PowerPoints and stuff like that. But what you want to do anytime you do your essays, you're going to have a multi-paragraph format. You want to include an introduction with a clear thesis statement. Try to make each paragraph based on one idea that relates back to that thesis statement in some manner. The idea needs to be backed up with specific examples and explanations. Be specific. I do want your ideas. I want your opinions. I want your thoughts, but we want to try and support those opinions and thoughts with objective facts as much as we possibly can. You're really going to want to keep up with the required readings for a lot of reasons. And one thing, it's going to give you information that's going to help you to be able to talk about the pieces of music that you analyze. And they also give you really good models for how to write about music. One thing I want to just get out of the way while I'm thinking about it, if we were taking an art history class or an art appreciation class, you would have to look at a painting or look at a couple paintings, and you would talk about those paintings through the vocabulary of brush stroke, palette, the types of colors they're using, perspective, maybe chiaroscuro, which is, the use of shadow and light to create depth. But you would talk about these, framing, like the perspective, the angle that we're looking at the painting from. What is the artist really trying to force us into? This is a lot like that. Being that it's a music appreciation class, you're going to work the best you can to describe the pieces as objectively as you can using the elements of music. And that's what the first 12 chapters in the book are going to help you, become a little bit more familiar with them. And again, I'll show you some of that here in just a minute. The listening journals, you'll have, I think, 2 of them. I cut those down. I cut those down from 4 to 2. So you're going to have 2 of those this semester. They're designed to be multi-paragraph essays, 500-word minimums. You're going to listen to a piece of music. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold, so if I cough occasionally, I apologize. You're going to listen to a piece of music from a list that I provided for you. Chances are you're probably going to need to listen to the piece more than once. Because the goal here is to discuss music at a deeper, more meaningful level, as opposed to like a casual conversation among your friends. I do want your opinions and personality to be present in your writing, but do try to keep an academic tone. Okay, so this is a college level course. Like I said, appropriate organization, sentence structure, spelling, and those kind of things are expected. If you ever have any questions, please ask. This just kind of goes through. I'm not going to read line for line here. Introductory, it tells you that, things to, you're introducing the piece, naming the source, the performer, the genre. Now, historical context, I'm not looking for a boring biography. Like, I don't want you to say, okay, Mozart was born on such and such date, he died on such and such date and did that. It's not what I'm looking for. What I'm really looking for is, we're trying to set context for the piece. So what's going on in Mozart's life, right? What's happening? Just to kind of foreshadow what one of the pieces that you're going to be listening to when we get to this point. or later on in the semester, Mozart's daughter just died, right? So he's upset, he's depressed. How does that affect him, and how does that manifest itself in the piece of music? What is the artistic piece that, or period, that the piece is associated with? How does this piece fit the period? Like, you're going to look, when you do your reading, it's going to say there are certain things to expect out of pieces from the Renaissance. It's going to give you a list of characteristics. So when you look at this piece, if you're listening to something from the Renaissance, you're going to tell me, does it fit this time period? How does it? Or does it violate those expectations? It's like, well, I would expect it to sound like this, but it does this instead. Okay, so that's a couple ideas there. Musical description analysis. Describe the music. Tell me what you hear. Try to, as best as you can, explain the music as you hear it. Try and let me, like, pretend I've never heard the piece and you're trying to tell me what it sounds like. Try to use vocabulary that's appropriate to the music. And that's, like I said, that's why we spend time reading the first chapters. Discuss topics like melody, rhythm, form, tempo, harmony. Now here, this is important. I should have highlighted this, but don't try to do too much. Pick probably 2 or 3 things that you're kind of comfortable with and focus on those. But do understand that I want to push yourself a bit as well. It's okay to make a mistake. That's why you're taking the class. Discuss your feelings about the piece. Was it worth creating? Was it worth listening to? Would you listen to it again without it being required? Would you recommend it to somebody else? Why or why not? It's completely fine not to like the music. There's going to be some stuff in here you like. There's going to be some stuff in here you don't like. But you need to back up your negative perspective with objective reasoning. For example, if you say something like, I hated this piece, it sucked, it was boring. That's not appropriate for college level analysis. But if you say something like, I didn't like the rhythm because it was a basic beat, it became very tedious after 2 or 3 minutes. Now that's something that's very specific. Okay, now you're telling me why it was boring. Conversely, if you like something, try to be objective to that too. I love the conjunct melody. It was very easy to follow and sing along with in my mind. A brief conclusion is nice. Try it to avoid an abrupt ending. Now, here's something with any writing you do, and I would recommend this in any class, not just mine. I would recommend this anytime you do any writing in college. Take the tone as someone that is teaching the subject to someone who doesn't know anything about it. And there's a couple reasons for that. One of these is, if you write something for a reader, you'll hear me mention these in your assessments. There's things that I refer to as open loops and closed loops. I don't know if other teachers do that, but I use those terms. Now, an open loop is if I read something and I don't know what it means. Like, you throw out some vocabulary, like I just used the word conjunct melody up there, and some of you are probably like, what the heck is that? Well, if you talk about that in an essay, just briefly define it. You can use a little parenthetical statement. Now, you don't need to do that for every single vocab word. Some things are kind of understood, but if you're going to throw a new concept out there, some kind of vocab out there that's very specific, kind of define that or explain it a little bit. That way that a reader, if they're reading your work, they don't have to stop what they're doing, break out Mr. Google and look up, and do research. They can learn something from reading your paper. And then for me as a teacher, when you do that, then I know you know what you're talking about, especially if you get something like from an outside source. You are free to use outside sources. Make sure you cite them, but don't just borrow some stuff and throw it into a paper because it sounds smart. Make sure that you explain it so that I know that you understand what you're doing. I reduced the discussion posts from 3 to 1. There's only one, and it's the last assignment you'll do in the class. Even though it's a discussion post, it's still a college level interaction. I still want to see college level writing, good organizations, grammar, spelling, all those kind of things. Essays, that's kind of just what we've already talked about with the listening journals. I don't we had an essay and there was one and I took it out. So you don't have that. Now, some tips down here. This first one is really important. Proofread your work, preferably out loud. You're going to be surprised how many mistakes you'll pick up if you have to hear your own writing, especially like incomplete sentences, awkward sentences, things like that. Watch out for misspellings that spell check will not catch. Like, I gave you a couple examples there, two, or two. Always, always, always italicize proper titles of pieces of art, song titles, book titles, names of painting, whatever. If you use information from outside sources, I prefer you don't really use a whole lot. And I am going to talk to you about sources in a second, but use MLA citation. And I do have a link to a handout for that if you need it. And again, be sure to read all assigned readings from the textbook. I am definitely going to be looking for evidence that you're reading and learning and growing in your papers. Okay, there's a lot of information in your book that you can use, and it's a lot more reliable than the internet.
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
So does this mean that if so long as we're citing from the textbooks and the various songs that we're going to be listening to throughout the semester, we don't need to do like a citation page in the essays that we're doing?
I will not require it if you're using the textbook. If you want to do it for practice, that would be wonderful. But if not, but I'm pretty well versed with the book, so I know pretty much what's in there and
so
what
if we
isn't.
just say what chapter we're citing and what part of the chapter, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even. I probably wouldn't get that detail. What I'd probably do is just say, from, and I can't remember the Forney, I think, is one of the authors. But if you just say from the textbook or according to the, whatever the author's name is, that's enough.
Okay.
You want your essay to be readable. But if you do anything from outside, then yeah, please do cite it and use all that. Whether it's me or anybody else, don't use Wikipedia as a source for college papers. Look, if I want to find out something really quickly, I might jump on and Google it and look at Wikipedia. But don't ever use it as a primary source or as any source. Don't ever cite it on a college paper. If you must use the internet for research, I would really make use of the databases provided by PHSC through the online library portal. Like if you can see over here, electronic library resources, if you click on that, and then you can get in there and search whatever you're looking for. If you just really want to use Google, open up the Google Scholar site and you'll get better ones. If you're using websites, they must be signed websites. Excuse me. If you don't understand what that is, please ask. But basically, I'll tell you just a rundown. If you pull up if you get a lot of commercial.com websites, chances are they're not going to be signed sites. Like a signed website is going to have an author. You're going to know exactly who the person is that wrote it, and more than likely the date that it was published online. If you don't see that, it's probably not a good website to use for my class or any other college class. So I would really, try and avoid that. And you might have to look around a little bit, but if you go Google Scholar, you'll run into a lot more of those. Okay. So that takes us through that. Let me show you. Okay, so there's the MLA handout I was telling you about. So if you have any questions about that, you can open that up. Real quick syllabus survey that you guys will need to do by tomorrow. It's just basically I agree to the syllabus and that you've read it and all that. Got how to proceed through the modules. If you want, you can watch this. I'm kind of showing you now, so you don't really have to do it, but here's the course schedule. So any of the chapters here you want to try and read during this time frame, you can always work ahead if you want. And I would really recommend it because this class works out better in a 7-week period than it does a 5 for an abbreviated, because if you look ahead, there's a lot of stuff here that last week. Like I would really recommend if you can work a little bit ahead of yourself here at the early part, you're going to have an easier time here at the end, because I just kind of crammed it all in there at the end. So I would really recommend working ahead if you can. So I'm gonna, well, you got your elements of music. This is where you're going to start. Okay, you're going to go through, there is a PowerPoint here. I would recommend you watching the PowerPoint, reading the chapters. There's a PowerPoint here on how to put music into words. It gives you some pointers on how to write about music, so that's good. But let me show you this. Let's get into some content. There's a few ways that you can do this. You can either start at the top and just work through, or if you click on this, it gives you a little bit of a overview, and then it gives you all your assignments. So whether you do it on this page or you do it on the next, it doesn't really matter. Now you're looking at this and some of you are like, oh my God, there is a lot of stuff. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And we do a lot of listening quizzes. And I'll tell you why. If you go in, let me open this up. If you go into your listening quiz, they're very short. They're very short. What they're going to do is you're going to listen to a short excerpt and answer a question. And that's it. Move on. They're usually about 10 questions. And there's a bunch of them. Now, here's the reason that I do this. If we were in a face-to-face class, we would look at every one of these pieces in class. And if we were in a face-to-face class, I would do these quizzes or something like this in the class. I would play a little bit of the piece. I'd stop it and say, okay, we're going to, the piece you just heard was, melismatic, or it was syllabic. And then I'd go through and I'd play a little bit more of it and we'd listen to it. And so we would do that. But since this is a class about music, I'm hitting you with a lot of listening quizzes. Most of them shouldn't take very long. You do have 3 attempts and your highest score is going to be kept. Okay, on those. So that's, you can take them and take them and take them if you need to, and that should be okay. But you'll just kind of proceed through. You go like here, you've got your PowerPoint. I put some things here. They're not required, but they might be worth looking at. It looks like this might have been killed. But then there's also some additional reading. These are all, they're not required, but for some of you who maybe you really like the medieval period, I've got some additional resources for you there. In a 5-week class, you probably don't have a whole lot of time to mess with that, but you never know. And then, so again, you just go down to the next one, maybe. And again, here's your, and see, I think that a couple of these, I need to check and make sure that some of these links are the same. But again, it's not required, but here's your PowerPoint. Okay. And then you just kind of work through. Are there any questions about the modules and the listening quizzes on what you're going to do?
No, I'm good.
You guys good? Okay. Let me take.
I have no questions.
No questions. Awesome. All right, let's go here. Let me show you a couple things. Okay, so you can get the link right here for your textbook. Okay, now there's a couple different ways that you can approach this, but I'm just right on the main table of contents. And let me show you something. So we'll start here with chapter 1, melody. So it gives you like, it's when I say chapters on this, like when you go and you get your hard copy, this chapter for melody is like 2 or 3 pages. Okay. It's not like you're getting a 30-page chapter here. That's another thing. Like if you look at the book, it's like, oh my God, there's 70 chapters. Yeah. Most of them are like 3-4 pages at the most. Okay. So there's not any chapters in here that are incredibly long. So anyway, so you kind of go through and it'll tell you some different vocab terms. it'll give you, now here's what's fantastic, because look, and I'll play a couple examples for you. So we get in here the structure of melody, they talk about phrases, they talk about cadences, and then they'll give you, so you can hear, it'll give you musical examples. You know, to kind of reinforce the things that you're listening to. Okay, so it works out very nicely. Like everything you need is there. Let me go back to, let me show you this. Let's go to, okay, so we're in, I just went over to table of contents. Let me take you down and show you. Okay, so we go to, let's close that out. All right, so you're in this chapter and you're reading about, you know, Notre Dame, and you know the basics of, this is where harmony all started, and you come through here. Now see, it gives you some background information, talks about organum. And then you come in and they talk about one of the pieces. LG3 means listening guide 3 is what that's referring to. Got some questions that, you know, you can think about. I'm not asking any of those, but this is something that you really want to pay attention to here. You will have, here's the piece, here's one of the required pieces for the course. Now, this is what they call a listening guide, and it tells you some things to listen for: melody, short repeated ideas, exchange between upper voices, and you can see, you know, texture, 3-part polyphony, text. But let me show you, if you click this interact with the music, I recommend this on every single piece you do, because it takes you to what they call an interactive listening guide, and you can see the music in front of you. You can see the text underneath. It'll give you the translation to the text, and it kind of explains what's going on during this clip. And I'll play just a little bit of that. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna see if I can. Yeah. So you see, you can tell the difference between when they're playing in 3-part harmony, when they're all singing in unison. It gives you the translation. I mean, the interactive listening guides, I just couldn't imagine really hardly doing this without them, to tell you the truth. Okay, and let me move this down. Let's close that. Okay, and so one of the other things too, you're going to be listening to a lot of music that's in other languages, so take the time to look up the translations. That'll definitely still be something that you'll want to do. Anytime that a composer puts, you know, it's a song where there's someone singing, there's going to be some kind of connections between the music and the words, so that'll be something to pay attention to. Again, if you ever have questions, ask. You know, please do, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. If we need to do a phone call, we can schedule it. If we need to do a Zoom lesson or a Zoom conversation, we can schedule it. I'll try and schedule another Zoom meeting about halfway through the course, so I can get on here and, you know, kind of see how everybody's doing and those kind of things. Anybody have any questions about the textbook, the listening guides,
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I only well, I bought the physical version of the textbook,
Okay.
but I don't think I have the online. Is that a problem?
Well, you should have had like it should look like an index card or some kind of a card that's got a code on it. I don't know if it's got something where, I don't remember if you have to scratch something off.
No, yeah, I know what you're talking about. They never gave me one. I went to the bookstore and I showed them the class that I was taking this one. They only said that it was required to get the physical version of it. So I have that.
If you don't mind me asking, how much did they charge you?
Let's see. It was, I could find it. I have the receipt right here. $315.
How much?
315.
150?
No. That's for the class. My bad.
Okay, yeah, that kind of scared me a little bit.
No, it was found it. It was 103.
Okay, that should have had the codes with it. So I would recommend getting a hold of the bookstore and finding out about that, because that that should have had both the textbook and the codes. They're usually right inside the cellophane when you open that up. You didn't happen to accidentally.
Well, I still have it. I still have it wrapped. I didn't really like open it.
Okay, so if it could still be in there then. It's usually it's on a card inside the cellophane. I don't know if it'll be like between a couple
I
pages.
actually do have it. I
Okay.
just didn't open it.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, so good. I'm glad about that. All right, so $100. I know it's a little bit expensive, but it's cheaper. Okay. Any other questions? Is there anything on here that you would like me to show you where the textbook is concerned? Okay. Let me.
If I think of any questions, I will email you. Otherwise, I think I'm good.
Okay, so. All right, excellent.
I have a question.
Okay, now let me see. Who am I speaking with? Who is this?
Angelica.
Okay, Angelica, yes.
So with that code that he received or we receive with the book, that will give us access to these listening guides, correct?
Yes, it'll give you access to everything on the online book. So when you go in, you didn't see it with me because I was already signed in, but it'll give you the choice to just sign in or to register a code. And once you go in there, you'll just set up your account, register your code and all that. I would recommend writing down your username and password. But what I do with me, I just use the same username and password that I use to get into Canvas, and it keeps it easy.
Okay, perfect. Because earlier, I was able to log into Canvas, and I was able to see the book, but I believe, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it said something about temporary access to it.
Yeah, they give you temporary access. It gives you like maybe 2 or 3 chapters just so that you can look at it and see if you actually want to buy it or not. And I don't know how much they give you at the beginning. Maybe it's to help people that if their financial aid hasn't come in yet. The only problem with that is in a class this short, like if they only give you like a chapter or two, I mean, we hit a lot of stuff right at the very beginning. If it's a problem with anybody with that, let me know and I'll do what I can to help you. But like if your financial aid money hasn't come in, you haven't had a chance to get buy the book or whatever, let me know early rather than later. And if there's anything I can do to help, I will. But yeah, it's going to give you like I said, just a very brief temporary.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, if I was able to access it through there, or I would have to buy the actual textbook. So they told me is just go ahead and wait until I spoke to you about it, and then go forward with that. So that was why I was asking.
Yeah, so you'll want to go ahead and buy that then. And if you're like me, I prefer to read like on paper So like with me, I would read it on the paper textbook, but if you go look at this on the playlist, and you can get to, when it comes up, this is all the pieces that are in the book without having to go to the chapters. So if like you've got the book in front of you, the paper in front of you, you're reading off of that, you don't want to click it through and do all that stuff, you can, kind of just pull right on here. It gives you the stuff to listen for. You can do this if you want to. This would be good, but you could probably get along without that. Let me go back to here. The ILG, that's the interactive listening guide. That's the one I told you. This is where I would be. Like anytime you listen to any of the pieces, this is where I would be, because it shows you like the parts, it tells you down here what's going on. I mean, I really like that feature. What else was it that I was looking at here? Then you can also just choose to listen with nothing. Some of the pieces, let me see if I can find one. We get down here, that might be, yeah. So some of the pieces you can actually watch, like when we get into some of the opera pieces and things like that, you can actually watch scenes. That makes, if you're not used to opera, which I would be really shocked if any of you here are used to opera. It kind of makes it a little bit easier to digest if you can see the actors instead of just listening to it. Oh, this just popped into my head. Mozart's Requiem is getting performed this Friday by the Florida Orchestra. This weekend. Students can usually get really good discounted tickets from them. I would really recommend it if you can work it out. So that's a fantastic piece, but they're going to be playing. It's going to be a nice program they're playing this weekend. But anyway, let's see. What's another one? Wagner. Yeah, so you've got different pieces that you can watch, listening, your interactive listening guide. This is where I would spend my time when I'm listening, is in here. Okay, and then again, like if you're, rhythm. Oh, that's not what I was expecting to come up, but anyway, you can still, like I said, you're in here, rhythm, it talks about the different ones. And again, it'll give you, I clicked on something I didn't mean to, but again, it'll give you what a duple meter sounds like, triple meter. So it gives you everything you need. I really like the e-text and all of the features that it has. Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of the rundown. And then, like I said, it's, the schedule is pretty hectic. This first week isn't too bad. You're going to read the first few chapters, do a listening. There's a listening quiz. There's just a fundamentals quiz. It's all multiple choice, a lot of questions, but it's covering, 14 chapters. And then you can see we hit pretty hard and heavy once you get there. So, but that's all I had for, well, I tell you what, no, that's not true. Let's go and look at this. I want to make sure that we cover this really quickly. Okay, so my contact number here, text is preferred, email here. This just, the course description, this is a course, it's really talking about, I hate to use this term. I don't think it's a very good term, but I'm stuck with it. It's really on classical music, the evolution of classical music. By the time we get to the end of the course, we're getting into some jazz and some blues and like roots of rock and roll and stuff. The idea with that is to show you where everything came from, and then also to kind of broaden your horizons a little bit. So it talks about those course objectives, learning outcomes. Here it talks again about Gordon rule. This talks a little bit. Don't use voice to text to write papers unless you have a medical reason that you need to. Let me know if that's the case. You can just shoot me an email or a text and let me know if that's something that you need to do. Again, here's your link. We're not really going to have any supplemental materials. Grading policy. I do try to have everything graded within 48 hours of the due date. If you get it in way early, I'll try to get to it as quick as I can. If you turn it in late, just keep in mind I always grade on-time submissions before I get to late submissions. I get kids that they'll text me and they'll say, hey, I turned that in. It was a month late, but can you grade it today? Not if I've got 30 other papers to grade that are on time. I mean, I'll get to it when I can, but I do try to get everything graded within 48 hours. And I give very specific feedback. Usually in a video response. Please take the time to watch them. There's really not any reason for makeup exams because you'll have they're just open on the course. This kind of talks about this. Yeah, you listen to all the pieces probably multiple times. And then it's just gives some other things here. And again, there's your important dates for the college. There's a course schedule again. And so on. I've got this highlighted, don't cheat. We do it with your written assignments. They do go through a plagiarism scanner. If it comes back 50% or more copied from other sources, I'm just going to return it with a 0. Chances are I'll give you a chance to fix it. But I won't even, if I pull up and it says, 51% or whatever, I'm just going to shoot it right back. Make sure that you submit an assignment at least once a week. You're going to have to in an abbreviated course, but do understand this. Next Monday, I am required to get on and see if everyone has logged in and make sure that everyone submitted an assignment. It's school policy that in that first week of school, if you don't do that, I have to withdraw you from the class. So make sure that you get something in every week so that you don't get accidentally withdrawn. And that could be really important too. I'm usually pretty good at catching it, but I have accidentally withdrew people for working way far ahead and then they didn't do anything for a month. That doesn't happen very often because I usually check your grades before I do that, but that basically says that. Same thing I just told you. This is all just regular syllabus stuff. And then that's for COVID. So now I think I can say that I went over everything I wanted to with you. Questions?
No questions from me.
None from you? Cheyenne, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Chris is good. Angelica, how about Dina? Cyrus?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good as well.
all right.
I'm all good.
Okay, very good. Well, I won't keep you. Like I said, I just wanted to take a chance and go over some stuff and hopefully, help you out a little bit so that you would know what you were getting into, know some expectations. Again, this is an online course, but I want you to know I am available to you. I'm not like on call 24/7, but if you need something, reach out to me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Let me stop out of this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now.